their Fifth Amendment rights. When the principal brings them to the office and the police are sitting there, they will feel compelled to answer questions. That is unconstitutional. Only parents, by the 14th Amendment, can waive that right, not you. Do not do this. Please. Please don't make this a fight. This is not worth it. It's not something to fight over. It's a couple lines. I feel like you meant to do the right thing. I feel like you were trying to address an issue in the country, and that's great, and you should. This wasn't very transparent until recently. The community had no idea what you guys were talking about. We couldn't bring this up earlier. And now we're all the way at the end for the vote. That's unfortunate. But please don't do this. It's not going to go the way you think it is. All right, let's not let this be a personal grudge match like other agenda items. It's not about that. All right, it's about what's right and wrong. And think about if your child was brought to the principal's office and questioned by the police, and you didn't know anything about it till after the fact. How would you feel? What if they accidentally admitted to a crime? What if there was retaliation from the person they were talking about? What if they witnessed something that maybe I don't want you talking about that, but you as a parent no longer are involved? It's just wrong. It's just fundamentally wrong. Please table that policy, rewrite it, and we can just move on. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gilbert. Next, we are moving into item 2, which is the consent agenda. So I hear a motion to approve the items on the consent agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda consisting of items 2A, approval of minutes executive session, item 2B, approval of minutes business meeting and work session, item 2C, financial matters payroll, item 2D, financial matters claims list, and item 2E, approval of personnel report.
It's been moved by Mrs. Terpstra. Is there a second? Second by Mrs. McFalls. Any discussion?
Just as a note, please notice that it is a revised personnel. That includes the resignation that we received later for Mr. Winters.
Okay.
And a couple other.
I have some questions about the personnel report. There were some concerns that I had brought up previously regarding the English language learners, and I've noticed that we still do not have an English language learner job posting for a licensed EL teacher on our website, nor do we have that on the personnel report. So is that something that we're going to be looking into?
Go ahead, Mrs.
Kristen Calvert is our German teacher at Washington Township, and Kristen has been working towards and will be obtaining the full licensure, but she has been working with our EL students all school year. And so she's been doing, and I'm going to forget the name of the program that the state has provided that they work through the licensure. So she's been working in that role, in that capacity, and she was fully licensed in that role. So.
Is she working with the elementary students as well?
Yes, she is.
She is working with them.
Yes,
Okay.
she has time in her schedule to be able to do that. She works with kids at Morgan Township Elementary, Middle School, Washington Township Elementary, Middle High.
Okay. My other question would be, we did receive some feedback from the community regarding a certain position. Can we be provided with any feedback as to the process that goes into hiring and what that process looks like? Because there are quite a few community members that are concerned about the Morgan Township basketball program and things being held up with that. So can you provide us any input on that?
As how process works as a whole?
Well, how the process works, because it sounds like this individual was offered a position, had gotten the schedule together, had done all these things, met with, there was a certain amount of background checks that have already taken place. And then things just kind of seemed to come to, a standstill and that's holding up their program. So, where are we, what does that process typically look like? But because I'm asking, for my own knowledge, it sounds like it's a little bit different than, typical protocol for that. Because we have a committee who've done background checks, cross-referenced and all those other things. So how much of that process, changes from hire to hire?
Usually it's pretty seamless and it goes the same unless something comes up that needs some additional vetting and investigation. I can tell you on this particular one, normally I do not meet with candidates, but I am meeting with a candidate. They're trying to get it scheduled for Thursday, just to ensure that everything's in step.
Okay. And so, and obviously I have a little bit of a different insight, being that I'm married to a varsity basketball coach. I know that, losing out on a whole month of those types of things where you're working with, defense, offense, like teaching your players different things. Would this be after those things are remedied or whatever the issues are? Would that be something where we can call an additional meeting prior to next month's meeting where we're voting? Would that be something that we can call an additional meeting, a smaller meeting perhaps, to get that going so that the student athletes don't end up losing out on that time?
Sure. If the board so chooses, that is a possibility. It's also possible to put other safeguards into place and we've had to do this in the past, where we can have somebody help and run the program in the summer until we can get the right person in that spot full time. So there are some avenues that we can do to ensure that kids aren't missing out.
Who would that fall on then?
I would work with the principal to set the people up. I don't have an individual in mind, but the building level principal, since we will not have an athletic director at that particular time, he and I have already talked about putting safeguards together. So he's putting a plan together.
Any other questions or comments? The consent agenda has been moved and seconded. Moved by Mrs. Terpstra, seconded by Mrs. McFalls to approve the consent agenda consisting of item 2A, approval of minutes, executive session, May the 12th, 2025. Item 2B, approval of minutes, business meeting and work session. Item 2C, financial matters payroll. Item 2D, financial matters claims list from May the 12th, May the 12th, 2025. And then item 2E, approval of personnel report. All those in favor signify by raising your right hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, motion passes 5-1. 0. No consent. Right? Are you not voting? Right. I voted. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then 6.
There's 7 of us, so the total should be 7.
That's correct. Thank you for the mathematical lesson.
I did not vote in favor of that part of it due to just not having enough information about the personnel report.
Okay. Then the motion passes 6-1. All right. Now we're moving on to action items. And we have on the agenda, item 3A, approval of service agreement with NEOLA for policy development.
So over the past few months, there's been some questions about policies and policy development. And so the board, we've had a number of board members ask about NEOLA and is that the direction that we want to move. So in front of you, there is a service agreement for your consideration. And I have 2 fantastic individuals here representing NEOLA who I've had opportunity to work with in the past in superintendent roles. But at this time, I will turn it over to Jim. You're taking the lead tonight.
I'll start.
Who are these fine men?
Let's start.
Okay.
That's
Jim Dermody and Cindy Scroggins.
Good evening. I'm sorry, I kind of talked to the television there as well. My name is Jim Dermody. I'm a NEOLA associate here in Northern Indiana. This is Miss Cindy Scroggins, who will actually, when this all was starting, she was kind of onboarding with our company and we are both retired superintendents. She's a newbie, but we have an interesting relationship because she was one of my clients. So I know I look young, but I'm not that young. And so she's going to be picking up the slack some, and she did a fantastic job as a superintendent working with us as well. So just thought I'd come today, give you, Superintendent Case asked me to keep my remarks less than an hour. Actually, I've been to many board meetings, so you don't have to worry about that. But I've been a NEOLA associate for, I'm starting my 9th year. I was superintendent at New Prairie. And I did interims at Knox and Oregon Davis and was assistant superintendent of LaPorte. So that was my central office role. And Cindy I knew her through the superintendency at Whiting. So we both have extensive experience with this. I have had 10 years as a client, 9 years as an associate. I really don't have to work. I enjoy working, and I think we're a great company. And that's one of the reasons I've done it for a while now. Cindy will be taking over Northwest Indiana. In fact, you're getting the benefit of having her instead of me. I've got a lot of clients. I have 26 clients over in Northeastern Indiana. So we thought this would be a perfect opportunity for the transition. Her technology skills are a bit stronger than mine. How's that? So you'll enjoy working there. Our company, NEOLA Incorporated, we provide services for 6 states: Wisconsin, Michigan, Indiana, Ohio, Florida, and West Virginia. I know in Indiana, we have by far the majority of the school corporations are NEOLA clients. In fact, this year, I have, part of the reasons I'm turning it over to Cindy, not that she'll do a great job, but I got my hands full. We've had 3 new clients just come on board. And so it's just very difficult time-wise to get all that done. We will provide biannual updates to the board through Dr. Case. We partner with Lewis and Capps Law Firm in Indianapolis, which is a pretty prestigious law firm. And what our goal is to keep the board out of legal difficulties and keep the school corporation out of legal difficulties. Because I've been involved in those, and they will hit you, and I had like nothing to do except the role I was in. They said, well, this happened, so you have to deal with it now. And on every 3 occasions, I'm an old coach. The pregame was not a good prognostication, and we smoked the case in every one, and we were NEOLA clients. And when you're dealing with the EEOC or OCR, any of these groups, the $2 million questions that will come up are, do you have a policy for what happened? Secondly, is it current? And is it implemented? And Cindy has sat through a couple of our cuss and discuss meetings. We have 7 other associates throughout Indiana. We partner with our attorneys and we break these down. So you're going to get biannual policies that we warrant, which I don't believe there's anybody else that warrants their policies. And what that simply would mean is that if you take the policies as they are, in fact, I have 2 meetings coming up next week on Thursday in Middlebury and Boggle. I will encourage them, don't change these. Because if they would run into a legal difficulty, our attorneys at Lewis and Capps will stand with whatever one of our clients at no charge to a point and support your primary law, which is a great thing. That's how confident we are that they're correct. And in this era of litigation, what we want to try to do is capture as much of the legislature's changes. I know coming up, we're going to have a humdinger that's going out to all our clients. And then secondly, we'll have one in the fall, which could reflect the federal changes. So it's very key to us to put yourself in that position. So the great things you want to do for kids, you're not involved in litigation. And I know Cindy, I would have never recommended her for the position if I didn't feel that she's an outstanding person. And I know she was an outstanding educator and was going to do a good job. She's currently working with one of my clients who probably doesn't want me to come back because I'm so overloaded with things, and I'm sure she'll do the same great job here for you. So that's kind of it. I don't know if I'm doing a good job of relating.
What does NEOLA stand for?
Northeast Ohio Learning Associates. It was created in Ohio, spanned a number of areas. As I said, when I was recruited years ago, when I retired, I had worked with them, so I was very familiar with the process. It won't be a walk in the park for Aaron. It's a policy, it's a process that you have to keep up with. But that's Cindy, great job. I know she did. I felt I did because I didn't want to have a problem, a legal problem. And the time that it took to work it out, and we were very tight. Let the corporation know we expected it followed and to be implemented. I believe now you're already a board docs user, are you not?
Yes.
So how this will happen is if the board would approve, and we'd love to partner with these Porter County schools. We'd love to partner with them, I can tell you that. Then there'll be a drafting process that will take place. And then when that's eventually done, and administrative guidelines, which I think is a very smart move to go with, because I know there's been litigation in recent years where there was a concern that our policy wasn't correct. And I said, that's not how the judge ruled. The judge ruled you did not have some administrative guidelines. Most all my clients have administrative guidelines. So I think that's the way to go. It's like tightens it all up. And at that point, it goes right on your website. It's transparent. Anybody can look at all the policies via the board docs website. It goes from there.
How long does the drafting process normally take?
Well, I got 2 clients right now, but I told them we need to get going because they want it done by the start of the school year.
Okay.
And I think we're gonna get it done that way. I know that my client that Cindy's working with wanted that, and they're well on their way. So that would just be a meeting that was set up. And by the way, when you come on board with NEOLA, you would have 24 hours at no charge for assistance to work on this. So that comes with the territory. I won't call it a mom and pop operation because we're really a $1 million operation, but I really like the people that we want to have. I use the word partnering a lot because we do see our school clients as our partners, and that we want to work with you and give you the best advice that we have. So again, you have so many challenges as educators these days that you don't have to mess around with something that's not tight, right, and up to date and correct. So I don't know if I answered your question.
My question was, what did NEOLA
Sure.
stand for? You went beyond,
I did go behind it.
which is fine, that you were superintendent, so I would expect that. I've been a board member 35 years, so
There you go.
I
There you go.
expect superintendents to talk. What is the smallest corporation that you represent, and how many do you represent in Indiana?
I don't have those exact numbers. I do know this, it's right around 80%.
80% of all.
Of all school corporations, yeah. So you closer than that, or you hear anything different?
It's a
High
little- I think
seventies, high
it's about
seventies.
80%.
Yeah.
NEOLA covers 6 states, and they have almost 1,500 school districts between the 6 states.
80% in Indiana.
Well, it's near that. It's right in that range.
205 clients is what your website says.
So, and there's 270 corporations, and we have over 200 of them.
Mhm.
And when I was at Oregon Davis, which is, I think, smaller than here, they were a NEOLA client.
Jim, when you're looking at the proposal, it's under $30,000 to convert.
Yes.
It's a lot. Can you talk to, because then it's about just a little over $3,500
I can.
for an annual. But what are you going to get with that? Because the other part, when you look at the agreements, which I have right here, there's a lot of side services that this much is here, this much is here. Can you help the board understand exactly?
Sure. Kind of
What
stealing
that's
my
gonna look
thunder
like.
there now. Stealing my thunder.
As you said, superintendent, we
I
talked.
know. There is a high initial cost because there's a lot of processing that goes into working through all these policies. Plus, as an associate, you're getting 24 hours of a highly paid person free. We do provide legal alerts at no cost at this time. That may change, but you're coming in, if if the board chooses to do this tonight, you're coming in just ahead of a price increase. So you will have the price I quoted you in February honored. That's the thing I like about the company. They said, absolutely, if they come in, we will honor the price that they had at that time. You'll get free legal alerts. You can contact your associate at about any time. I get calls a lot of times. Now, if I'm on the phone for an hour and a half, yeah, I'm gonna probably charge for that. But if I get a 15, 20 minute, I have two people that I'm gonna text tonight, email, that don't do this. Yes, I don't think it's a good idea. This is probably a good idea, based on my experience. And the legal alerts are very useful. Cindy and I probably know I would get these out of the blue, and so I didn't even think of that, but this is coming and I need to be aware of how this could impact the school corporation. And then after your first year, because it is healthy, the cost. After this year, when you look at a budget, and I had budgets at New Prairie is, 30 million, and it's smaller and it's smaller. It's 3,500 a year, and I think about what I used to spend on 3,500 in a year. It really was not much at all. Because I'm telling you this, if you get into a legal difficulty, you will find out very fast, or some of my clients that are coming back now that went with a law firm for a while, found out that that becomes quite expensive, and we don't charge you any, you get no hourly charge as an attorney's fees. Look at your attorney's fees, you get to talk to an attorney, you have a flat fee here. So I don't know if I'm answering those questions. I cannot see it being any more economic after your initial investment to get all this going. It's top notch, it's very professional, it's transparent, and it's everything's cited, all the laws, all the citations are right there on the policies. So if anybody questions them, you have it right in front of you. And like I said, if I didn't think it was a great product that stood up, it has stood up in tough circumstances. And I know other people that are NEOLA clients. In fact, two of them I have right now were clients of mine that change schools, and they do not have NEOLA. They're already nervous about what they have, and they're coming on board. They said, we have to have this because I can't go down the road with an incomplete policy or this, that, and the other. Policies are all we do. I would probably consider that if you had to have a serious surgery, I would go to somebody who does the surgery all the time. Not somebody who does this now and then, does this now and then. This is all we do. All we do is policy. Policy creation, policy maintenance, and policy warranty. So I think it's strong to do it. I'm sorry, go
I
ahead.
have just a question. So I see there's hourly rates, there's a couple different versions of it, but you had mentioned administrative guidelines also
Yes.
beyond the policy. Is that an additional charge to do with the administrative guidelines on top of?
Not in the package that we quoted you.
Not in that
Not in that
package.
package.
Not that package. And you also, for the guidelines, I think 12 to 15 hours. I think it's been changed.
I think it's more than
I think
that.
it's even more.
I
It might
think
be
the
24
total-
hours too for that. That's
Yeah.
for the administrative guidelines. So you have an associate working with you all the time, basically for free.
So
And
are you
that-
reviewing all existing policies that we have then?
I'm
Are
sorry,
you reviewing all existing policies that we have?
they would be. They would be.
And that's a part of the
Process.
30,000.
Mhm.
Yes, and then that,
And
yes.
in your experience, how many of them have you then had to change?
Are you saying what you currently have? If you transition to NEOLA, all of your policies then will become the NEOLA policy. Not sure who you currently use as your
ISBA.
ISBA.
And I can
So
say,
your current policies won't be any longer.
no, you'll have ours. You'll have ours. And ours are second to none, I can tell you that. They're second to none.
But if we want to change something that's specific to our district, then that
You
would
could.
possibly not be covered by NEOLA.
You could, but if you run into litigation over what you changed, you would be on your own then. Because we would say, we don't think that's a really good idea for you to change that. So we're not gonna put our own costs on for something that, like I told my kid, don't take the car, and he goes on and gets a wreck. Probably kind of a problem. We shouldn't have taken one. So we try to tell them, we're very confident in our warranty. So these are right. You can feel You feel very strong that what we're gonna tell you is what we do, and Dr. Case will sit down with Cindy and they'll hash it out. You'll get a first draft to look at.
And that's, I think that's the part that we may be missing is in my previous, experiences with NEOLA, as, Dave Geis was my representative at that particular point in time. And as we were looking and reviewing, if we had something that we felt, needed to be a little bit different, then he could get it vetted back through NEOLA to say, yes, we can, support this, or yeah, no, we would recommend you doing something different.
So is that the $80 fee then? $80 an hour?
That was part of the hours that we had worked in. We didn't get charged to.
No, they wouldn't have charged.
In my time, the 3 years that I sat in that seat and was working with them, we never received enough charge. It was all within that time.
In Porter County, who's using you?
In Porter County, I don't have Porter County, Porter, not Boone Grove, Porter County Schools, Duneland, Portage,
Portage, Valpo,
We're the only ones that are not.
Porter Township.
Porter. I know, I think of your athletic conference, Westville, I'm sorry,
The co-op.
Co-op, et cetera. So,
I guess one of my concerns is one of the things that we fought for years was the uniqueness of this school corporation. It
Sure.
sounds like this is a total template that it's all the same. It's all boilerplate.
well, I wouldn't say it's all, but
And I say that because when we would ask ISBA for suggestions on policies, they would give us a variety of choices that were all up to par. But if we go with you, we're gonna go with the boilerplate.
no, I've done a poor job then. You'll have all kinds of choices. Aaron will have so many choices, and Cindy will have so many choices, and the board will have so many choices. But there'll be recommended choices. They'll say these 3 choices. There won't be a potpourri.
Right.
And
Right.
Oh, yeah, well, I'm familiar with ISBA. I've had a number of my clients switch from them over to me. And I just say, we'll put whatever you want in. We will put whatever you want in. I'm just saying the warranty, which is proven to be rock solid in my experience, would only be for what we warrant, because we can't have ourselves going on a plank, so to speak, if it's not something that's conducive to what our attorneys have said and what our associates, who all retired ex-superintendents, but we will put anything you want out there, and we will also, you'll have many choices. You'll have many choices when you get this opportunity. So it's not just straight, the language and it's going to be up to date. It's going to be current laws and current statutes. We have people that are down in Annapolis that they're continuing working with the legislature, so that everything that we can reflect will be the latest legislative changes.
As does ISBA.
Yeah, probably is. I know that, and the other formats that people, they look just like NEOLAs. I take it this as a form of compliment. They said, well, if I was NEOLA, I said, no, that's a different one, but it looks just like yours, et cetera. So, yeah, you'll have many choices, and that's for sure. Anything else I could add?
Any other questions?
What does the support look like after the first year?
Well, the support would be that Cindy would contact Dr. Case and say this, and the board would have this available. There's one out right now. It's a very long one because all the changes that have occurred with the federal government come in. And I'm meeting with people, and she'll do the same thing. I say, I need to meet with you. You meet with whoever they want, whoever wants to represent the corporation. And then I say, these policies we're recommending you update these policies.
How many hours are built in?
You would get 3 hours per half year for that,
Okay, so 6 hours for the whole.
for the year. Yes.
So how often, once we have a policy, let's say how often do you guys review that to let us know, like, hey, it's been 5 years, you need to review this? Is there a 3-year?
That's ongoing.
So it's on-
You never have to worry about that. If there's anything that changes, like, let's say you come on board, we get the drafting established and you're good to go. There'll be another review that's going to come out in the fall. And anything that would affect any of the policies will be on that review.
I guess my question though is, like, if you see a policy that, let's say, takes place this year and you guys could implement it, if for the next 10 years continues, would that policy then only be dated 2025 and it's now 30?
If there's nothing else that needs to change in it?
Yeah,
Yes.
so like that's not like.
Oh, yeah, we
renewed,
have a
reviewed,
number.
or-
Oh, no, we don't do, we only would recommend the change of any policies that have been affected by the federal or state
So
legislation.
updating will only be effective.
Yes. So it's really
Really?
our request. Or true, yeah, unless you request.
Any other questions, comments? I mean, one lawsuit could eat up that.
Oh, it could. Well, it's crushing. I've had calls from clients. In fact, when I was doing intro. And I had been on them, I said, you really need to sit down and do this, because you got some gaps in your policies. And then they called, well, we got an EOC, now breathing down our necks. I'm like, oh, we just talked about getting that done, so let's get to work and get it done. It came out the other end, but you know what an attorney costs for an hour of conversation? And, I think after the initial cost, you did budgeting enough. 3,500 and it's
It was nothing,
it's really nothing.
nothing.
And you have a foolproof service in place. You have a foolproof service and people that are going to be responsive to you. That's one of the reasons we both went from. So in fact, you want to say anything?
I would just say from working directly with the policies as a superintendent, assistant superintendent, and as a principal, I've been working with NEOLA in that capacity since 2006. It's always great for your building administration when they have an issue that Dr. Case can say, hey, look at this policy. It helps them as well. I worked with them with NEOLA policies all the time as a principal. I would share those policies. If parents came in and had a concern, we would talk about it. You can pull the policy. It's a great resource for your administration. It can be a resource for your teachers as well. At the bottom, all the Indiana codes are there. So the reference material is there as well, which is very helpful. In central office, it was really great because it always kept our board up to date, because we would have the updates twice a year and we would do our first read, second read. Sometimes we would have work sessions and go through things. But education, and especially educational legislation, is ever evolving. You never know what's coming out. And as soon as that legislation session ends, the attorneys start working on the policies. So those updates are always ongoing. It is a lot of work to update your policies and keep them up to date, but it's also very, very important. The student section of the policies, I will tell you with NEOLA, you will find, if you look at our students' policies, anything related to that really goes to best practices for education. And there's a huge focus on student and school safety, which is a big thing. And I'm sure that's very important to you as a board. But it was, I agree with what Jim said. You don't really need the policy until you need the policy. And unfortunately, we had some cases of OCR. Special ed is also an area where you can get into some heavy litigation that could be ongoing for a long time. It could be very costly, upwards to, I think one time we had almost $150,000 in attorney bills for one case. And the first thing that they do ask, especially for OCR or EEOC, is pull all your policies on this and let's see them and see if you're implementing them. And if you're not up to date, if it's not correct by the current federal law, state law, you might as well not go any further, because now you've already lost that case.
What happens if we don't implement something that you recommend? So you mentioned, like we pull policies, but if there's something that as a district, we didn't feel followed our values and we don't implement it, would it be the same? Then you're saying that we're still not covered. Obviously, we don't implement it. You're allowed to not implement all policies.
Right, you can choose it. And NEOLA is really good about recognizing that all school districts are different. There's rural districts, urban districts, suburban districts. Some things that I've always worked in an urban district, some things that I needed in my urban district, a rural district might not need, and vice versa. So within every policy and every update, this is what NEOLA attorneys recommend that you have to cover yourself legally as a board. But there may be a policy about Indiana's ICAP program, which is the online program for students. We didn't utilize that in Whiting. We had a different program, so we didn't adopt that policy. So you do have choices, and within each policy, as you go through it, you'll see there's option A, option B, option C. and you choose what fits your school district, your values as a board, and your students that you serve. So it's not cookie cutter by any means.
You talked about that we're coming in right before a price increase. Sounds like a used car sales. I'm just telling you, that's how it's coming across to an old timer like myself. What is the increase?
I haven't really even looked at it because it won't affect 90% of my clients. I have to get ready for the ones who are going to, and I just haven't looked at it in all honesty. It's a minimal, it's a minimal, it's gonna be 30 to 40 a year dollars. But if you wanted to go with the whole initial cost, is where you're gonna save a lot of money. The other costs will not be. And pushing on to what Cindy says, obviously you can see she had an excellent associate. No, I'm kidding there. But I have a son in Michigan, and Michigan is administrator school in Michigan. And what my life has become now, he'll call me occasionally about, well, this is gonna happen. I'd say, well, he goes, I know you're gonna say something about NEOLA. I said, I'm just telling you, I wouldn't do that before I look at your policy. And call him back the next day, and he went to whoever was gonna do something and said, I'm glad, thank you for at least telling us that. I said, you're gonna get yourself in trouble doing that. Look at the policy. And he's become like a disciple. You know, now he looks at the policy first, and whatever it is, and that's in another state, you know, et cetera. And they're a small district. You're acting the size of a small district of Michigan, but they have it. And they went to it about 5 years ago because they're having all kinds of other problems. And it's really tightening things up for them. Superintendent told me that when I went to see a game.
Any other questions, comments?
I have a question for Kim about where it would come from, the cost. You know it. Because I know obviously this was budgeted for the year, so I'm just trying to, additional costs of operations.
Any other questions?
Well, I guess my comment would be, I missed the work session. Sorry, I was, when this was first brought up, and I read through it all today, and it seems I still have some questions about it. My preference would be to table it. But it's gonna be the board's pleasure. I'm just telling you where I'm coming from.
Any other questions, comments? If there is none, then
I have one, sorry.
Go ahead,
So
don't, fine.
the operations fund, and forgive me, because I'm new, right? Do we have, can we afford it?
Do we have enough in our fund?
Yeah, like,
Yes.
will there be things we have to shuffle around? Because it wasn't budgeted for, right? It wasn't part of the budget we approved at the start of the year.
Extra expense.
Okay.
Correct. We have budgeted.
And yes, and that fund has, not everything in that fund is accounted for.
Okay.
So that if you look at the balance is, there is a little excess in that particular balance.
Okay.
Not saying that we have excess, but, there is additional in there if that's where the board chooses to spend it. It's not gonna take away from anything else.
Okay.
But anytime we spend any money, you do realize that you're making choices.
It's a balancing act, yeah.
Dr. Case,
Yes.
you worked with the NEOLA before
Yes,
at KV or where?
yes, and South Central and at Valpo. I had NEOLA at all three places. Their policies are good. Sometimes they are overwhelming because they put a lot in there. And so when you look at the differences between the philosophy that East Porter has had in the past is let's have policy for things that we deem are necessary for policy. But at the same time, in the environment that we are, there's sometimes, I've always been less is more kind of a guy. But in, I would say the last couple of years of my career, I am finding the need for more policies than what we may have.
Okay, well, I'm entertaining a motion then for approval of the service agreement with NEOLA for policy development. Is there a motion?
I'm gonna move to table it. It may fail as a motion, but that's what I move it.
Is there a second?
A second.
Second to table it. Okay. All those, and well, first let's ask any questions or comments. Anybody?
Well, the only reason is because I'd like to digest it some more and ask some more questions. I don't feel like I've had ample time to digest this. Is a pretty major shift in how we viewed policy and its creation.
Okay.
So we would table it till the next agenda.
That's what I would say.
What does that do to, action item B then for the second reading? Then do we table that as well and wait to see if we're gonna adopt NEOLA before we decide what we're doing with?
The policies.
Yes.
Well, I almost wonder if we shouldn't have done that if that isn't.
No, I thought we continued. We need to continue with those policies until we have something else, so.
Let's, there's a motion to table and it's been seconded. Is there any other comments on that motion to table?
I did have one other question. Is it possible, Bob, you mentioned like you were kind of confused as to what this would look like if you took like one of our policies and then were able to like give us examples of what you would then be offering us from you, like, we wouldn't implement it, right? But just to kind of see, I don't know, one of the policies maybe we have.
You're saying like a comparable?
Yeah, like up next, like what would that look like, right? Here's our initial policy, here's what NEOLA would recommend. Here's the 3 versions of NEOLA that you would give us to see how just kind of how that would work. Like a perspective almost.
When you're with NEOLA, all of the board policies that any other school district, like if you would like to go to Valpo's or
Yeah.
Duneland school site, you
Those
can
are
go
all
to their board
available. Look
docs.
at them all.
It's available.
Before-
Yeah, and I've
Yeah,
gone
but
on.
Ken's asking, if we gave you one of ours, could you look at it and say, well, we would have recommended something different? That, I like to know what I'm buying.
I mean, if you took one of your current policies and then looked at what the NEOLA policy is that
Yes.
what you're asking? You would
Yes.
just look at what the template
Yes.
is?
Again, you could do that.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
for example,
We could look into.
Yeah.
administrative expectations.
Yeah.
You could go on, a comparable school, I would think, would be maybe Porter, over at Boone Grove. Look at theirs and say, this is what so you can do that already just by shopping around and looking at it there. So you can kind of mix those kind of things. I would have to probably say, I'm not trying to squeeze anybody, about June would probably be, that would have. I think it will last, but I have to call and I'll call Aaron, or you can call her. Somebody will call Aaron. I think it's probably okay, but we want to make sure that with the pricing. So that would be, do that quickly if it's stable.
Okay. So Mr. Martin has made a motion to table and Mrs. McFall says second. Any other questions or comments?
Just want to say, for me, it's just the money. I need to chew on and think about it. It's better to budget it for later, know that we budgeted for it, and plan for it ahead of time. Not saying I need more, I'm just thinking, for me, it's the money.
All those in favor of tabling action item 3A, signify by raising your right hand. 1, 2, 3.
You can't really see my hand, but it's up.
You take your table too?
Yes, in favor of tabling it.
Okay, so that's 4. I would get it 5. 5. And 6. 6, okay. 6.
And understand, I'm not against it. I just need to see some more.
Sure. Well, we appreciated the chance to come and explain ourselves.
And I hate for you to feel like you wasted your time, because you
Yeah,
have.
no, we don't waste our
Not
time.
at all.
Yeah,
And I certainly understand you
Yeah.
having to do your due diligence as a board.
And I'm very confident when you look in, you'll see it's a really good product, or we wouldn't probably have come over as well.
So any board member could go to any school and they could look
That's right.
up that
That's
policy.
right. You could go to Portage, you could go to,
Alpha Board Docs has, it's all
And so-
part of
Are your
Just-
stamped, just for
No,
clarification,
they're
are
at
they
the
stamped?
same.
Oh, they're not. Are they will they stamp though, like, we'll say NEOLA on the bottom.
Oh,
or will it-
yeah, but I will tell you the codes will not match.
Okay,
If
okay,
you look at
yeah.
our coding and their coding, the coding are different.
But yours are stamped, so you have watermark or something on them, so I know I'm looking at a NEOLA policy if I'm.
Yeah, if you
That's
just-
the biggest thing.
I'm not sure Valpo, I'm not sure Valpo is now. There's been talk, but I know all the others are. And so if you want to compare apples to apples, you want smaller corporations, about your size. Porter Township would be a good one. Westville, I'm sorry, New Durham is what they're called. South Central would be ones I think would be pretty comparable to your size, and you can look at theirs, and they do a good job of staying on top of theirs. I know because I've worked with them as well. Or look at the bigger ones, the Porter.
Okay,
Hey, we do have some information for you, though, regardless,
okay,
okay?
that'd be great.
Yeah, thank you. You're welcome.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Nice meeting you.
Nice meeting you. So the software is at the bottom, it has the
You're welcome.
proper.
Yeah.
Right, so they're,
I'll get some.
all right, perfect. So it's done.
The beds are really
They're
nice.
good ones too.
Oh, well, thank you. Appreciate
Very nice
it.
meeting you.
It's nice meeting you.
You too. Thanks for the time.
I'm glad you don't have to drive it.
Thank you.
Okay, next action item is, action item 3B, second reading and approval of policies 1302, 1305, 1400, 4420, and 8500. Any discussion on that, Dr.
So in front of you, you are correct. We are looking at the second readings on that. I do know that Mr. Belbranson had brought up concerns with regards to the 14th Amendment. I will tell you his opinion is from the legal counsel and ISBA. Where they clearly delineate the difference between the interrogation and interviews. And we have a memo from both of them saying that they believe in their legal opinion that your policy is good. So with that being stated, it's up to the board discretion if you want to wait, depending, because had you approved the move forward with NEOLA, I was going to recommend not doing anything with it simply because it doesn't make sense to pass something that we're just going to be looking at something different. But it's the board's pleasure.
Do I hear a motion for approving the policies as read, 1302, 1305, 1400, 4420, and 8500? Any motion?
Mr. President, can I make a motion to separate them out and approve them one by one?
You can amend that.
Can I ask to amend it?
You can ask to amend it if you need a second.
I'll second.
Second, okay. It's been moved and seconded to take each of these policies one by one and pass or deny, correct? All those in favor of the amendment signify by raising your right hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 and nothing. Okay, so it's that motion has been passed 5-2, Bob.
We got the math back.
That's got the math back.
Glad to hear it.
All right. So now I need to have a motion to approve
Policy 1302.
1302.
I'll help you out and then we'll go one by one.
Do I hear a motion to approve policy 1302?
So moved.
Moved. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second. It's been moved and seconded by Mrs. Starr and Mrs. Terpstra. All those in favor of approval of policy 1302 signify by raising your right hand. And I'm going to count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and
I'm not in favor of it. I feel like, this definitely would take away some board member individual authority. There's nothing that defines what the appropriate members of the executive staff are. So it states that the superintendent shall prepare all agendas for meetings of the board. In doing so, the superintendent shall consult with the board president and the appropriate members of the executive staff. So I feel like the word, that term appropriate members, who determines who the appropriate members are? Again, this was not a policy that we've ever had in place before. This was drafted about 6 weeks after we had 3 board members sworn in. I feel like this is essentially, moving backwards as far as transparency and being the voices of our community, which is what we were elected to do. So I'm highly not in favor of this.
Okay, so I got
Not
you.
just, but, for future board seats as well.
So a motion passes 6-1 for policy 1302. Okay, next one is 1305. Do I hear a motion to accept policy 1305?
So moved.
So moved by Mrs. Terpstra. Is there a second? Second by Mrs. McFall. Any discussion? No more discussion? All those in favor?
No, I have discussion. There's some issues that I have, brought up, as far as some, again, board member authority, as far as being able to exercise those rights, to be able to speak during the public comment. So there's been times when we've had questions, for public commenters. As far as, some of the things that are in here, some statements specifically, could be viewed as, silencing the public and their rights of freedom of speech. I think that this would be better off being tabled and going along with, something that NEOLA perhaps would replace this with. I do not feel comfortable with this. Again, this is another way of silencing board members. And perhaps maybe other board members do not feel that these types of restrictions will be applied to them, because that has been an issue with certain policies being applied to certain board members. But all in all, I feel like this is very restrictive and unnecessary.
Okay, it's been moved and second. Any other comments? Make sure you get that.
I just want to be clear that this policy in no way limits public comment. It reinforces what we currently have and still allows the board to discuss after the public comment session with people in the audience, that kind of thing. I in no way feel my voice is being silenced. And I just want to be sure that that was stated.
That's a personal opinion. Plus, we're also limiting them to 3 minutes, and cutting them off with a timer. I feel like that's disrespectful to the public. If we have 30 minutes allotted for public comment and only one person signs up, I don't feel like it would be that big of a deal to allow them to, finish their thought or, go an extra few minutes. It's very limiting. Again, sometimes we have questions in that moment that need to be addressed in that moment. We never had a policy like this in place that restricted that. So while you may not feel that it's restrictive to you personally as a board member, I do personally feel as a board member and future board members that could be in this seat that it is limiting.
Okay, any other comments? Seeing none, to call the question. All those in favor, policy 1305, signify by raising your right hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Passes 6-1. The next policy is 1400. Do I have a motion to approve policy 1400?
And this one that we, well, can we have comment now or do we have to make a motion first?
So you'd have to make a motion in a second. Otherwise, it's go on. Do I have a motion for approval of policy 1400?
I'll make a motion to approve.
It's been moved by Mrs. Moore. Is there a second? A second for policy 1400. Well, seeing none, then the motion dies for a lack of a second. Next policy is policy 4420. Do I hear a motion to approve policy 4420? Any motion to approve policy 4420 and make a motion to do so? Seeing none, then that policy is certainly, we could call it tabled. What about policy 8500? Is there a motion to approve policy 8500?
Approve policy 8500.
Okay, is there a second? It's been moved by Mrs. Terpstra and seconded by Mrs. McFalls. Any comment on policy 8500?
I have some comments about this. Again, this was not a policy that was drafted until about 6 weeks after 3 new board members were elected. I feel like it's definitely overkill. I've never known of a issue where we've had board members, abusing the use of their badges. If that was the case, I feel like we may need something like this. But I find it really hard to believe that in however many years we've had badges and visits to the schools, that this policy is necessary. It just, again, feels like more restrictions. A lot of times, or actually pretty much every time, we're given these pretty big contracts and things to approve on a Thursday evening before a Monday board meeting. So it is important for us to be able to visit the school and to, see perhaps what it is that you're wanting us to approve. This would essentially, would remove that authority, that elected authority that we have to be able to do that. And again, we have people that are badge holders, that are lay coaches, that have access to the buildings without restrictions. I find it odd that we're just pointing out board members' visits to the schools and we're not addressing, lay coaches, other things. I feel like this is a policy that was definitely aimed at board members as opposed to badge members in general, badge holders in general. Because if we can have lay badge holders just walk into any building at any time, within reason. I know that the badges only work during certain hours of the day, but either way, we have the most restricted access, and the lay coaches have, less than us. It just does not seem right. And again, we are professionals. We're not going to be we should be given that professional courtesy that we aren't just showing up to buildings unannounced. I don't know. I don't believe that it's worded. And that's my personal opinion.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments on?
I originally felt that way. I don't feel that way as much. I'm still not real comfortable with it. I'll probably vote for it, but I'm wondering if this isn't one NEOLA should look at if we go that route. I don't know. They'll look at them all. So
Yeah, definitely.
I would look at them. I think they give you options to show you what exists in the law
right.
along with it.
Right,
I mean, I understand what you're saying. Yes, I
right.
agree. Yeah, you will.
Okay.
I just wanted to also state that I feel opposite. I feel like it gave principals and building administration back the right to say, hey, we've got a fire drill. Hey, with new people in, and there'll always be changes and board members were elected and it's only 4 years and then we move on. And I just feel it gives us a direction to say, hey, you're a new board member. At any point, you check in with the principal to let them know they're not having some sort of special day or students are out at certain times. It just is better communication to leave. I always felt to give the principal back their authority in their building. And again, if you want to come on a Thursday, this policy does not inhibit anyone from our school board member from visiting on a Friday, on a Thursday, or on a Saturday. It just says you will communicate.
But given the fact that we don't get much notice for these big budget approvals, if I'm there on a Saturday, perhaps at a noodle dinner, and I want to walk over and see what the old gym improvements look like that are, $30,000 project, because there's not a lot of time in between the time we're given that information and then Monday, there's not a lot of business days to work with. So that would be hindering our, again, like the professional courtesy that we should be given, that we were elected. Perhaps maybe it needs to be worded that during the school day appointments need to be made, but to say that we can't enter the building when we're expected to be approving these $30,000 jobs or 50, I mean, it's just very, it's going to be, it could pose some barriers in being able to be fully knowledgeable in regards to voting appropriately. And again, this was not something that we had in place before.
But it just says school visits should be scheduled. That's what the policy would say.
Right. So what happens if we're trying to schedule it and the principal isn't able to schedule it within that short, very small window of time? We have to look into these things.
Okay. Well, I'm gonna call the question. All those in favor of approving, policy 8500, signify by raising your right hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Motion passes 6-1. Next item we have is item C. Item C3C, Booker Tech renewal.
So as we discussed at our last work session, we have found Blue Protect has been a tremendous help to the district. I know we did not initially enter into an agreement with Blue Protect thinking that it was going to be long-term. However, it is our recommendation that not only do we renew it, but I would ask the board to consider it a 3-year renewal, simply because of the cost savings and the additional services that it gives us.
Thank you, Dr. Case. Is there a motion to Booker Tech renewal? Is there a motion for Booker Tech?
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Martin.
Second.
Second by Mrs. Terpstra. Is there any discussion?
Just clarification, Bob, your motion is to move for
For
the
the 3 year.
I do have a question. At the last work session, it was brought up that there could possibly be some open tech tickets and that I think the board member was going to contact you or give you those so you could address them. Have they been addressed if there were any?
I
open-
have not seen those.
Any other questions? Comments?
Are we on? Oh, sorry. I thought we were on a different agenda item. The issue that I do have a comment about that. The issue that I had, wasn't so much as regard to current open tech tickets. It had to do with the, the response time. We have, the member of our tech staff that analyzes the issues and then, we'll go out and try to fix things, 5 times possibly before Booker Tech comes in and fixes those. So my question, and I know the question of the constituents is, how do we streamline that? A question I had at the last meeting was, how much would it cost for us to not have, I believe it was called like a shared, correct me if I'm wrong, but it was like a shared contract where we have staff at East Porter, a tech staff, in addition to Booker Tech staff. I still, in speaking with staff members from all 3 campuses, they have run into some issues with that. So not current tech tickets that are open necessarily, but just the length that they're open and then the responses that they get back. I feel like that could definitely be streamlined more. The representative from Booker Tech had said that it would be a 70% increase if we did that, if they were more involved. And then we would, not have as many tech staff. I feel that would be more fiscally responsible, being that 70% increase would actually be equivalent to some of, our tech staff's salary. So to me, it's not that I'm against Booker Tech. I think they've done some really great things with our, updating our technology and things like that. But it seems like we're trying to hold on to some of the old ways of doing things while also merging in this new, right now we're contracting out for tech, which is something that we didn't do prior to 3 years ago. So if we're going to do that, I'd like to see us do that in more of a way that just kind of goes more towards that direction instead of holding on to some of our old ways of doing things, because I feel like that is where we're running into these barriers or hiccups in providing continuity with tech services to our staff members. So that would be my concern with that. My concern isn't with Booker Tech that they're them providing us services. It would be with how that looks and how that aligns with what we are keeping in house as our staff. And is that the most fiscally responsible decision?
So motion on the table is for the Booker Tech renewal for a 3-year contract. Any other comments about the Booker Tech renewal 3-year option? And I'll call the question. All those in favor of the Booker Tech renewal for the 3-year option signify by raising your right hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6.
No, for me.
Okay, 6. Motion passes 6-1. Next is approval of the 2026 budget calendar.
Mrs. Nieves.
So we're just asking you to approve the budget calendar for the 2026 budget. And have we these, so we can appropriately advertise for those meetings.
Move to approve the 2026 budget calendar.
Moved by Mr. Martin. Is there a second?
A second.
Second by Mrs. McFalls. Any questions, comments on the 2026 budget calendar?
I guess I only would say one thing. I think on my hard copy.
Oh, yeah, 2024.
So it's probably that way in your board copies too.
Sorry, 2025, yep. The office date.
It's one of the benefits. I suppose.
You're right.
So Mr. Martin, you're making a motion to approve the 2025 budget calendar.
Correct. And with the adjustment, August 4th should say August 4th, 2025.
Thank you, sir.
It's 26 budget.
26.
Yep. Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Any other comments, questions? Then all those in favor of approval of the budget calendar, signify by raising your right hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That the motion passes 7-0. Okay, next item is
Next, we are asking the board to consider the approval of the service agreement with RAVE. I know I was asked, what would it look like if we did a 1-year, a 3-year, and a 5-year? With the price cut and no setup fee, and in talking with the surrounding school districts that are that will receive the same or a similar, I can't say the same because each of us have different numbers of schools. Looking at the 5-year contract would be, our agreement would be my recommendation. Even though, again, I do have some concerns on the upload and all that kind of stuff, we do feel that it's better to move with our constituents or with our colleagues in looking at rate. And I do have, I know there was a question about the challenges and the advantages, but the board has that as well.
Well, do I hear a motion for approval of the service agreement for RAVE for the 5-year plan?
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Martin. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Mrs. Terpstra. Any discussion? Questions, comments? Seeing none, then I'll call the question. All those in favor of the approval of the service agreement for RAVE for the 5-year program, signify by raising your right hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and you're abstaining?
I'm just not, I'm not.
Not favorite? Okay. So the motion passes 6-1. Approval, the next item is F, approval of dietitian through service center.
So over the next couple, I'm just going to try to summarize, and we can still take them one by one. These are the service agreements that we hold with our service contract, our service center. In doing so, it's some cooperative sharing that we do with other districts throughout the Northwest Indiana area that helps us meet the needs and the requirements that we have with the Department of Ed and food service and all that. So the first one is our dietitian. We are required to have all of our menus run through a dietitian, and they look over our food stuff. So we are asking the board to approve the service agreement with the service center so that we can be in compliance with our dietitian.
Do I hear a motion for approval of the dietitian through the service center?
So moved.
Moved by Mrs. Terpstra. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Mrs. Starr. Is any questions, comments? No questions or comments, and I'll call the question. All those in favor of approval of dietitian through the service center signify by raising your right hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Motion passes 7-0. Next item is approval of the NIESC Food Service Director contract.
So again, we have a service agreement with that. Mrs. Nieves is the one that oversees our food service department here as a district. Even though it says that it's a contract for a food service director, basically it just helps us with the federal and state oversight. They help make sure that we're in compliance with our reporting. They help us out with our menus. The big thing that they really help us with is our free and reduced percentage. And Mrs. Nieves, if I'm forgetting anything, please.
No, those are the biggest things. They come to review the cafeterias once a year, and I mean, they come visit sometimes, but they do a regular review once a year at each location.
And it is significantly cheaper than if we had a full-time food service director on staff.
I'd like to hear that. So do I hear a motion for approval of the NIESC Food Service Director contract?
So,
Moved by Mrs. McFalls. Is there a second?
a second.
Second by Mrs. Terpstra. Any comments, questions? Then I'll call the question. All those in favor of the motion for approval of the NIESC Food Service Director contract, signify by raising your right hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Motion passes 7-0. Next item is approval of the media specialist through service center.
Similar to what we approved just minutes ago. This one is for obviously our media center specialist. You're supposed to, state law requires us having somebody with a specific certification that can oversee that. We do not have anybody on staff that has that licensing. And so therefore we contract with our service center to help with oversight. She gives monthly reviews to our media center aides, overlook some of our book purchasing, and just gives guidance and direction with that.
Are there any questions or comments? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor of approval of media specialist through the service center, signify by raising your right hand. 1, 2, 3.
Wait, we have a motion.
Oh, my goodness gracious, I'm rushing through this.
I was like, wait a minute.
Okay, well,
But
about
I
the
would
motion.
I would like.
You, Mrs. McFalls, I knew you would. Okay, then. Thank you for keeping me straight this evening on base. Okay, it's been moved and seconded. No discussion. All those in favor of approval of the media specialist through service center, signify by raising your right hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7-0. Next item is approval of the 2025-26 meal prices.
Mrs. Nieves, do you want the next two?
Sure. So, just I'm asking for approval of the meal prices for 25-26 school year. It's kind of hard to know exactly, we don't have the reimbursement rates for next year and that, those things yet, but we want to get them approved for registration. We know we're getting about $25,000 less in commodities next year than we got this current year based on the free survey. The cost of these continues to rise, so small increments, but asking to approve the lunch and breakfast by 10 cents. And then the a la carte items, we just did a review of our a la carte items, and those, the state would like us to charge 3 times the cost of the price of the item, at least for a la carte items, because taking into account the labor and things that go into those items, you can't lose money on a la carte items because that would take away from the money that's reimbursed from the state. So they want us to ensure that we're making a profit on those items that are voluntarily purchased in the cafeteria.
Thank you. Appreciate the explanation. Do I hear a motion?
So moved to approve the 2025-26 meal prices.
Moved by Mr. Martin. Is there a second? Well, you're getting fast. Mrs. Terpstra. It's been moved and seconded for approval of the 2025-26 meal prices. Any questions, comments? And I'll call the question. All those.
Question.
Go ahead.
Sorry, just to make sure. So I see the largest is gonna be like our waters, the large and small waters. But one of them is just one I saw. Is that, when it says large water, is that just like a full bottle? Yep. Okay, and then the mini bottles are the ones that, okay, just wanna make sure I have clear when I read it. That's all, sorry.
Okay, no, that's all, guys. Other questions, comments?
water is provided with all our cafeterias for free. We have a whole water bottle.
Okay.
We choose to purchase a water bottle and then pay the extra cost.
Okay, I'm going to call the question. All those in favor of approval of the 2025-26 meal prices signify by raising your right hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Motion passes 7-0. Now we have student fees.
So, we don't have a lot of fees that we charge anymore with the changes in state law, but there are a few things that we charge for, and so I'm just asking for permission to those rates for the next school year. There are a couple different fees that change. The instrumental rental fee, so those are for students who use our school instrument and take it home with them versus renting it from the Davish. We rent out a few of our instruments here. And so the band directors have approached asking the $15 fee that we were charging is pretty phenomenal and not covering a lot of the costs of the repairs that they have this summer of the instruments are returned. So they're asking to raise it to $150. We thought going from 50 to 150 is a big jump. We kind of wanted to make a smaller step to 75 and then see if we increase it later on. And then the other one is an exam fee. So for some of the AP classes, the state does not reimburse us for those fees. So they can take the class without taking the test, but if they want to take the test, then they would pay them for that test.
I do have a question on here. So this breaks down the athletic fee. Is that for like the transportation, right? That's what the parent would pay for the one time. But does the athletic fee include band or include like sponsored academic goals and stuff? I had always wondered when I looked at this athletic fee, is that something else that, you know, like I know it's part of an extracurricular. Is that part included? Like, should that be an extracurricular fee as opposed to athletic, or how that should be that approach there?
I don't think that it includes all extracurricular. I think it's just athletics. But if is that something that we could do? Yes. But
I know they do much less than athletics, obviously.
Correct.
And you know, there's the balance between obviously one as opposed to 15 to 30 plus, right? But I just wondered if we had like a,
yeah.
okay.
This doesn't even come close to covering
Yes,
the.
actually. Because it's a one-time fee, right, for the whole year, once an athlete's on, all this, right?
I have a question as well, actually too. The drug testing fee, if you're paying that $6 every year and then you're never drug tested, what happens to that?
Still a cost for it, so
So you would charge every kid a little,
it's like $6 to charge to drug test. It's significantly more than that,
Okay.
so.
So we're just
the
splitting the
cost.
cost.
Right.
Okay.
Again, that $6 does not cover the total fee. The district does end up picking up some of that.
Okay, and then can you give me an example of an AP class that the Department of Education doesn't cover?
Art history, geography, physics, no, psych.
Psych.
Yeah, they do cover physics.
Well, I certainly will entertain a motion for approval of the 2025-26 student fees.
So
Moved by Mrs. Terpster. Is there a second?
second.
Second by Mrs. McFalls. Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, then I'll call the question. All those in favor of approval of the 2025-2026 student fees signify by raising your right hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Motion passes 7-0. Is this being tabled, this approval?
You know what, I've been thinking about this, so I'm gonna give the board choice. So I talked with the sheriff this afternoon. If you look at our SRO, the full-time SRO, we have been extremely blessed to have Officer Matt as our SRO, and I will advocate for him all day long. Because he's done a fantastic job. As a matter of fact, in my superintendent's report, I'm going to briefly give him accommodations for his role and the efforts that he put with the reunification drill that we did last week. He did an excellent job, and I'm going to do it now so I don't have to do it later.
It's one of those, the day ended up being a tough day simply because it was long and they were moving around and everything. But they put a lot of time and effort into it to try to come up with as many scenarios simply so that we didn't have that. On Wednesday, we'll be meeting with our administrators to debrief on how the day went. What did we learn? What are some good things? What are some challenges? And what do we need to be working on? But just accommodations, you just did great. It was awesome. So last year, when we filled out and did the memorandum of understanding for our full-time officer.
We lost him.
Oh, no. Got it. When we went with our full-time,
It's still on, right? It's okay.
So she'll just join back in. Okay.
okay, so we didn't lose it, I guess.
No, but it's, on there.
Okay. So with that being said, our full-time SRO bill was just a little over $70,000. After the board assigned it, you approved it. I got a phone call from the sheriff and said, yeah, we made an error. We're off a bunch. However, being that we had an agreement and signed everything, they ate the difference, which if you recall, for those of you who were on the board, I was like, be prepared, next year's gonna be it. We're gonna take it in because we missed it. It's $11,000 difference. And in looking at the total number of days, an $11,000 bunch or a jump, I had a conversation with Sheriff today and said, look, I'd like to give the board options. Can we just take care of it now, or do we want to put it over 2 years? So in doing that, he has agreed that we could increase it by 8,000 this year, but no, next year, we're going to get another hit because it needs to make up for the difference that we're going to be missing this year and next year. So not knowing what the raises or increases, initially, when I had a conversation with him today, I was just like, you know what, let's table it because I need to meet with the controller so that I can get the numbers exact. However, if we just want to make it whole and knowing that we just take it now so that we are all caught up, we won't hit that major increase again next year, because I'm going to tell you right now, I don't know what funding and budgeting is going to do for next year. It may be easier just to take it knowing that it's going to be an $11,000 hit now and going through and just make that adjustment now as opposed to waiting, because even with the Senate Bill 1 and House Bill 1001, you almost, and we've got somebody working on what our calculations be, but we don't know how that property tax decrease in assessed valuation and all that's going to play out. So initially I was sitting here thinking this afternoon going, you know what, let's put it off. It's $3,000 or whatever. But the more that I've been thinking about, I don't know how that impact is going to hit us. If we just budget it and do it now, then it's already built in and we don't have to worry about the increase. So although I was going to just pull it for tonight, I would like to give the board its pleasure that we pull the Band-Aid off because we're going to pay it if we continue to have our full-time SRO, or do we want to stage it? Because even in doing that, the sheriff's department wasn't too excited about having to increment it, but being that we've had great relationships, they're willing to do that for us. But as they say, sometimes it's better just to rip that Band-Aid off.
And the cost is total.
Oh, it's in the proposal that I gave you.
Okay, you're just leaving that the way.
Yeah, leaving it the way that it is at. So my question to the board is, are we good with the current proposal, which would be 40,000? Because for the $40,311.42 for the first 84 days of school, and then $41,015.68 because there's a 4% increase, and they do a annual from January to December budget, where ours is, when it comes to personnel, July 1 to June 30th.
So essentially just leaving it the way it is.
leaving it the way it is
Okay.
and not having two bites at the apple, or,
Okay.
he said that he would be agreeable to go with that, but being that I don't have those exact numbers because I haven't had a chance to talk to their controller, we can pull it till next month.
Okay, well, do I hear a motion for approval of the school resource officers MOU, memorandum of understanding? Is there any motion to approve item K?
I'll make a motion to approve. General amount.
Moved by Mrs. Moore to have the,
That's just me.
have the number as it appears in our board packet there. Do I hear a second? Is there a second for approval of the school resource officers memorandum of understanding? Is there a second?
Is that?
What's that?
Just wondered if we needed-
It dropped.
Yeah, when I
We were just
stopped, she wasn't in there, but I was checking to make sure it still worked. Sorry about that.
So that's just for clarification, so you're proposing that we just pay the full amount now and not split it out?
Yes. Is it recording?
Yep.
Okay.
This isn't recording.
Okay, Mrs. Moore has made the motion to pay the full amount now. Approval of the school resource officers, MOU. Second by Mrs. Terpstra. Is there any discussion?
Just gonna state that I'm going to abstain.
Yes,
Obviously, for some relation.
understood. Okay, any other questions, comments? Seeing none, to call the question, all those in favor of the approval of school resource officers MOUs, signify by raising your right hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Is she not on? So motion passes 5-0-1. Right?
Yep.
Well, I'm getting good at this. All right, next up is the approval to use Everlink for ticket and concession purchases.
Exactly. So currently we do not have the option to use a credit card at our events for ticket sales or concessions. Our athletic departments would like to have that option, not that we totally go that way, but just the option to use a card. We feel like it would increase their concession sales specifically. Allow people to the door, don't have cash.
Do I hear a motion for approval to use EventLink for ticket and concession purchases?
So moved.
Moved by Mrs. Starr, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mrs. McFalls. Is there any comments, questions?
Well, I'm glad we're still using cash sales also.
Good. Any
Will
other?
that be 2 devices for the entire district, so it would have to rotate?
No, they would each have their own
Okay.
device.
Okay.
Any other questions or?
It's my understanding that it's 2 devices per school, one for tickets or one for concession.
Okay.
Okay, any other questions? Then I'll call the question. All those in favor of approval to use EventLink for ticket and concession purchases, signify by raising your right hand. 1, 2, 3, 6. Motion passes 6-0. Next is approval to purchase new couch, music chairs, and discard the old ones.
So as we were walking around and doing some, just checking in on the buildings and just our walkthroughs, we got to the music and band room in Couts, and we were looking at the floor and trying to figure out what was all over the floor. There's pieces of our chairs. So we are asking the board for permission to dispose of the chairs and purchase new ones for the music program at Cows. As the photos show, they're pretty bad.
Do I hear a motion to approve the purchase of new Cows music chairs and discard the old ones?
So
Moved by Mr. Martin. Is there a second? Second by Mrs. McCall. Any comments, questions? Seeing none, call the question. All those in favor of approval to purchase new Cows music chairs and discard the old ones, signify by raising your right hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Motion passes 6-0. Next on the agenda is approval of Washington Township Girls Overnight Basketball Camp Field Trip.
Asking the board to approve the trip.
I'll make okay, I'll second.
Moved by Mr. Martin, second by Mrs. Terpstra. Any questions, comments? Seeing none, we call the question. All those in favor of approval of the Washington Township Girls Overnight Basketball Camp Field Trip, signify by raising your right hand. Motion 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Motion passes 6-0. Next is approval of the Couts Boys Overnight Basketball Camp Field Trip.
Same as above.
Same as above. Okay, do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Moved by Mrs. Terpstra. Is there a second? Second by Mrs. McFalls. Any comments? Seeing none, the call the question. All those in favor of approval of Couts Boys Overnight Basketball Camp Field Trip, signify by raising your right hand. 1, 2, 3, 4. Motion passes 6-0. Next is approval of the Couts Overnight All-Star Game Field Trip.
This is for our girls basketball team at Cows, which is similar to the previous two.
Okay, all those, I need a motion. I'm gonna hurry it through this. And then here, I hear a motion for approval of the Couts Overnight All-Star Game Field Trip. So moved by Mrs. McFalls. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Second by Mrs. Starr. Call the question. All those in favor signify by raising your right hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Motion passes 6-0. Vanessa, I'm going to ask for your consideration, and we can certainly move forward with item Q. But I wish another board member was here to talk about that as well. But still, there's been a motion for distribution of information packets, board packets. Do I have a motion? Or you want to talk about it first?
Well, do you want us to go do a motion and then discuss? Is that
Yes. Wait, yes.
okay? Yeah, I make a motion
And what is,
to approve the distribution of board packet and emails.
okay, yes, but you're gonna have to say how you want to distribute, how's it?
Okay, and then for all board members, to be required to view the board docs and emails online.
Okay. Understood. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Second by Mrs. Starr. Let's discuss this. What's the reasoning behind it? Mrs. Moore.
The reasoning is, well, due to, since the General Assembly did just pass the SB 1, that's going to be just decreasing funding. And then also because our enrollment continues to decline and that decreases funding, I just feel that it is unfair to expect our district office to take on the expense and the responsibility for board members printing, and then they are also delivering it to people's houses.
Go ahead.
In defense of the policy, I have a horrible internet connection. My wife is a church secretary. She said, if you let something like this go by, you'll be running down accounts to get information all the time, and I'm already running down the couch to school board meetings. So the reason that it was done for my benefit was I am in a hole in the internet connection. And so I strongly encourage you to not do it. I understand your reasoning for saying it, but it is a very big inconvenience for me to not be able to get internet there, which we aren't able to get a lot of times.
Okay. Any other comments? Any questions, comments?
I would actually like to make a separate motion.
Sure.
And my motion would actually be, I would prefer that other board members would be here. I wish that we were all here, to make the whole motion. So right now, my motion would simply be that we continue printing them, but the motion is that they are picked up here at the office. I know that might be inconvenient, but I don't think that dropping them off is part of, other staff members' time. So I feel like at this particular time for this motion, I would like to make a motion that they are picked up, that the package.
Okay, so you're making a motion that you're amending the motion to state that the packets are printed.
At this time, because I feel like the first one should be tabled until we have all the board members here present.
Okay, well, I don't have a motion for tabling.
Okay.
Yet. So you want to amend the motion to say that the packets are printed, but they have to be picked up here. Do I have a second for that? Okay.
Well, can I just ask one question though about that?
Go ahead.
So there already is a policy for public records, and in that I highlighted where it says that for the public, if they were going to be printed, it would be 10 cents for the black and white and 25 cents for the color. Could we add that then, so that way at least the board members are just paying for their own printed material?
Seems like we have a lot of
Yeah.
items on the board here. And I know that I'm not supposed to make any motions as a presiding officer, but I would just like to make a motion to table this.
Okay.
And if I could get a second,
I'll
that,
second.
okay, so that's two, that's been a motion to table this till the next time. Let's vote on the table. All those in favor of tabling this motion until the next meeting, signify by raising your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to 1. So we tabled it.
And I did get an email from Natalie saying she's having a hard time reconnecting. She apologizes.
Okay, thank you. Well, now we move on to some closing items. Is there any board member discussion?
I did have something I wanted to say.
Sure.
After going on the listening tours at the 3 different campuses, a trend that came up, not a trend, but a thread that came up was the mental and emotional health of our students. And I just wanted to reiterate what I feel is the importance that I heard from the teachers and the staff. And as the board continues to move forward over this next year, we be sure to weigh that in to make sure that we have provided the right resources for our teachers and staff and for our students, because the bullying, just their mental health, it seems to be higher needed or higher needs than it has been in the past, and something we should keep aware of as we move forward. I just want to bring that because it was a key learning point for me.
Sure, sure. Anybody else have any board member discussion?
Lots to be proud of in our athletic departments, the county meet and co-champions in, round baseball, and East Porter was well represented.
I thought, thank you for mentioning that. I just got a couple items here. Boy, that top 10 banquet on Sunday, May the 4th, 2025, it is refreshing to see the accomplishments of our students and for them to have an educator that has led them along the way. And it was really very well done. Alicia, we gotta thank you again for working on this. Dr. Case was there, of course, and Alicia,
And Sarah Carter has.
and
a
Sarah
lot to do with
Carter.
that.
I've got her on the list right here.
Oh, I shut you down, sorry.
No, you didn't shut me down, just want to make sure I cover everybody. And Kim was there, Vanessa, Natalie Bauer, Sock was certainly there. Her husband was one of the honored educators. Liz McFalls. It's a pleasure meeting your son. He's a quite upstanding young man. And myself went to that. And then a couple days later, oh my goodness gracious, some of us made it to the Region 1 Indiana School Board Association meeting on Tuesday, May the 6th. Dr. Case and Alicia and Kim, Bob Martin, Vanessa, myself, and man, oh man, there were 1,229 introductory bills that were introduced into the session. 43 of those bills were for new K through 12 education, and there's 22 House and Senate bills that will profoundly affect the East Porter County School Corporation. So we have unsolved opportunities ahead of us, but thank you for the opportunity to attend those meetings. Anybody else?
I just want to say how grateful I am, just closing to the school year. It's probably our last, meeting before the school year ends. I just want to see how appreciative I am to our staff and our administration. Again, closing a great year. Still looking forward and moving forward, and I appreciate it. Just all the hard work they put in. And I know it's tough. Those last weeks, having 3 kids. I know it's tough, but thank you. Just want to say thank you.
Any other school board member want to say anything? No, that additional items from the superintendent.
Thank you, Mr. McSpirit. So looking at, I'll start with something that Mrs. Starr said. So I am planning on coming to you all in June, looking at the emotional health and well-being of our kids. Currently, we have 2 buildings that have a half-time social worker. And looking at class sizes, look at the social emotional need. So something that I'm going to ask you all to consider, which you can get your brains thinking early, is, in doing that, is it the right time to make sure that we've got a social worker in every building full time? And in doing so, I know that it is an added expense, but in looking at how the kids are and the listening tours and even when people are looking at the concerns of class sizes, a lot of it has to do with the stressors and pressures of what they feel that student behavior has come. And so something that we have been looking at and having conversations with, this year we moved a full-time social worker to the middle school, high school at Washington Township. Couts and Morgan still have half-time. Talking with Mr. Fields and Mrs. Fran Leslie, they have seen a tremendous difference in having somebody there full-time. So that is something that I will be bringing to you just to recognize, yes, I've heard the same thing. And so that's something that we will be looking forward to look at. For those of you who were unable to attend with us on Tuesday night, I brought you presents. Good meeting. And I am currently working on a slideshow and a presentation. I told you Wednesday, we're going to be doing a debrief on our reunification drill. Also on Wednesday, I will be depressing our building level administrators, talking to them about the wonderful 23 new laws that will be impacting our schools and how that's going to do. And the conversation, I don't know if we're going to get to it or how, but I even talked to Mrs. Schnick today. I'm looking at maybe even putting something together to share out with all faculty and staff, as opposed to normally we do updates with our principals and then they do that. But something I've been thinking about doing is recording something.
Nice video.
Yeah, I have no Facebook page on video. But we're working on it. Thanks to Mrs. Carter, who helped put a bunch of pretty slides together for me. So going to our Donations, Mr. Good donated $500 for the spring sports meals at Couts. American Heart Association donated $100 to our nurse, Mrs. Michaels, at the Washington Township Elementary for successful American Heart Association campaign. Sherilyn Welter Foundation, Charitable Foundation, $600 to Couts. Thank you, Washington. I'm sorry, for pots and pans and things in our fax room. But that's all I have for you this evening.
The easiest part of the night is asking for a motion for adjournment. I hear a motion to adjourn. So moved by Mrs. Terpstra. Is there a second? Second by Mrs. McFalls. All in favor of adjourning the meeting, signify by raising your right hand. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 0. Motion passes 6-0. Thank you for attending this evening. Appreciate you all. And I look forward to spending the day out in the field.
Get your sunscreen.